The world is now watching a dangerous conflict unfold in the Middle East. It all started in late February 2026, when the United States and Israel launched a joint military operation against Iran. This wasn't a small, targeted strike. It was a large-scale attack aimed at weakening Iran's military power. The attacks hit not only military sites and nuclear facilities, but also civilian infrastructure like hospitals and police stations. A major turning point in the initial hours was the assassination of Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. This single act dramatically raised the stakes, transforming a military strike into a fight for the very survival of the Iranian regime. The immediate human cost was high, with reports of over 1,000 people killed inside Iran. Iran's response was swift and furious. Feeling cornered and facing an existential threat, the government in Tehran activated what some are calling a doomsday plan. They did not just focus their retaliation on American and Israeli targets. Instead, Iran unleashed a massive barrage of missiles and drones against a dozen different countries across the region. These were nations that either host American military bases or were seen as supporting the attack. The United Arab Emirates, a major economic hub, was hit particularly hard, along with other key U.S. partners like Qatar and Saudi Arabia. This retaliation immediately widened the conflict, pulling in many neighboring states that had hoped to stay on the sidelines. The goals of the main combatants show just how far apart they are. For the United States, the Pentagon has stated its objective is to completely neutralize Iran as a regional military threat. For Israel, the stakes feel even higher. They see Iran's military and its nuclear ambitions as a direct threat to their existence and are seeking their total destruction. President Trump has made it clear that he will accept nothing less than Iran's unconditional surrender, even demanding a say in who will lead the country next. This language suggests a goal of not just defeating Iran, but causing a complete collapse of its government. With such uncompromising positions, the chances for peace seem very slim. Iran has rejected all attempts at mediation from other countries. From its perspective, this is no longer a political dispute, but a desperate battle for its own survival. The conflict has already spread far beyond Iran's borders, creating a new, large-scale Gulf War. The initial attacks and the fierce retaliation that followed have set the entire Middle East on a path of greater violence and instability. Ceasefire talks are not even on the table, as both sides appear to be preparing for a much longer and more destructive fight that has already cost many lives. This war is not just a regional fight. It involves a complex web of international alliances that raises the risk of a global confrontation. On one side, you have the United States and Israel, with support from various Gulf states that are now under attack. On the other side is Iran, which is not fighting alone. It is part of a group sometimes called the Axis of Resistance. This network includes powerful allies, most notably Russia and China. Both of these global powers have strongly condemned the U.S.-Israeli attacks and have called for an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council to address the crisis. Their diplomatic support for Iran sends a clear signal that this conflict has big power dimensions. Russia and China are not just offering words of support, they are providing direct assistance to Iran. According to intelligence reports, Russia is supplying Iran with crucial battlefield intelligence, helping them track enemy movements and plan their strikes. Meanwhile, some Chinese satellite companies have been accused of helping Iran by publishing information about American military deployments in the region. Iran is also known to be using Russian and Chinese satellite networks to guide its weapons. This indirect involvement is a major source of worry for Western leaders, as it shows how Iran is being propped up by two of America's biggest rivals on the world stage. This situation creates a dangerous dynamic where the war in the Gulf benefits Russia and China strategically. A long and costly war for the United States in the Middle East serves their interests well. It forces the U.S. to use up its expensive military resources, like advanced missiles and aircraft, far from other potential flashpoints like Ukraine or Taiwan. The more the U.S. is bogged down in a conflict with Iran, the less attention and resources it can devote to countering Russian aggression in Europe or Chinese ambitions in the Pacific. This is why many analysts believe that Russia and China want this war to continue, as it weakens their main global competitor, without them having to fire a single shot. For now, both Russia and China have stopped short of getting directly involved in the fighting. They have not sent their own troops or planes to help Iran, and there is no sign that they are seeking a direct military clash with the United States. However, their support is making Iran a much more difficult opponent to defeat. By providing technology, intelligence, and diplomatic cover, they are ensuring that the conflict will be a long and draining one for America and its allies. This proxy struggle, where big powers back opposing sides, is a classic feature of major global conflicts, and a key reason why people are so concerned this war could escalate. The intense fighting has exposed a critical weakness in the West's military readiness: the rapid depletion of advanced weapons. In just the first 36 hours of the war, the US and its allies fired an astonishing number of high-tech missiles. This included 340 Patriot missiles, used for defense, and 70 of the newer Talon missiles. To put that in perspective, launching that many Patriots is equivalent to using up 6 months' worth of total production. The situation with the Talon missile is even more dire, as stockpiles were already critically low before the fighting even started. This high rate of consumption is simply not sustainable, raising fears that Western arsenals could soon run dry. This problem is made worse by Iran's military strategy, which focuses on asymmetric warfare. Iran knows it cannot compete with the US in terms of advanced, expensive technology. So, instead of trying to build billion-dollar fighter jets, it has invested in thousands of cheap but effective drones and missiles, like the well-known Shahed model. Iran is using these weapons to overwhelm the sophisticated defense systems of the US and its allies. It costs millions of dollars to fire a single Patriot missile to shoot down a drone that may have only cost a few $1,000s to build. This economic imbalance means Iran can sustain its attacks for much longer than the West can afford to defend against them. The economic consequences of this war are already being felt by ordinary people all around the world. Iran has threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway through which about 20% of the world's entire oil supply must pass. The threat alone has caused global oil prices to skyrocket. In countries like the United Kingdom, families are being warned that their annual energy bills could increase by hundreds of dollars. The price of gasoline and diesel is also expected to rise sharply, making transportation more expensive for everyone. This sudden economic shock is hitting households that are already struggling with the cost of living. Beyond energy, the conflict is threatening global food supplies. Disruptions to shipping in the Persian Gulf can affect the supply of fertilizer, which is essential for modern agriculture. Without a steady supply, farmers around the world will produce less food, leading to higher prices at the grocery store. History has shown that sharp increases in energy and food prices often lead to social and political instability. Governments in Europe and even the United States are worried about the potential for civil unrest and mass protests if the economic pain becomes too severe. This shows how a regional war can quickly become a global crisis, affecting the lives of people thousands of miles away from the fighting. Many experts are worried that this conflict is not just another regional war, but a stepping stone to something much bigger. Historian Niall Ferguson has suggested that we are in a sequence of escalating wars, starting with the Russia-Ukraine war in 2022, and now this new Gulf War. He argues that these are not isolated events, but are linked, and could be a staging post on the road to a true world war. One way this could happen is if the conflict in Iran breaks the country apart. There are reports that the US is considering supporting separatist groups within Iran. This could trigger a brutal civil war, destabilize the entire region, and pull in neighboring countries, creating a much larger and more chaotic battlefield. The strain on US military resources is another major pathway to a wider war. If the United States uses up most of its advanced missiles and other key munitions fighting Iran, its ability to defend its interests elsewhere will be severely weakened. This is particularly dangerous in the context of Taiwan. China might see a depleted American military as a golden opportunity to act on its ambitions to take control of the island, believing that the US would be too weak to intervene effectively. This scenario, where a conflict in one part of the world invites aggression in another, is how regional wars can link up and become a global conflagration, a true World War III. Despite these terrifying possibilities, there are still some factors that might prevent the worst-case scenario. The most important one is that neither Russia nor China seems to want a direct military confrontation with the United States. Their current strategy is to bleed the US dry in a proxy war, not to start a direct shooting war between nuclear powers. This shared interest in avoiding mutual destruction is a powerful brake on escalation. Furthermore, the immense economic and social costs of the war could eventually create pressure from within all participating countries to find a way to de-escalate and negotiate, even if that seems impossible right now. However, the fear of World War III remains very real because the situation is so volatile. The combination of intense fighting, uncompromising political goals, great power rivalries, and severe economic shocks has created a perfect storm for escalation. The rhetoric from leaders has been aggressive, and the use of advanced military technology is draining arsenals at an alarming rate. While there is still hope that diplomacy and self-preservation will prevail, the path to a wider war is clearer than it has been in decades. The world is holding its breath, watching to see if leaders can pull back from the brink, or if this conflict will indeed become the spark that ignites a new world war.